Two self-proclaimed HOA officers tried to arrest a man in his own driveway for breaking community rules in a neighborhood that didn't even have an HOA. For months, they had been impersonating law enforcement, shaking down residents, especially the elderly, for bogus fines. But their biggest mistake? This time, their suspect was Ethan Carter, the actual chief of police, and he had his own way of handling fake cops. What followed was a spectacular takedown that had the whole town talking. The day had been long, too long, and Ethan Carter was feeling every second of it. 20 hours on duty, back-to-back shifts, a case that refused to wrap up, and a pile of paperwork that threatened to drown him. Being chief of police in a quiet suburban town wasn't supposed to be like this. Sure, there were the occasional break-ins, domestic disputes, and the odd drunk who thought they could outrun a cruiser, but mostly, it was just keeping the peace. And right now, peace was the only thing he wanted. As he pulled into his driveway, his thoughts were already drifting to a scalding hot shower and the promise of a half-decent meal. Maybe something that didn't come from a takeout bag for once. He let out a tired breath, running a hand through his graying hair before shifting the car into park. Then flashing lights, not blue and red, orange and white, the cheap kind, the kind you could pick up online for $50, slap onto your car, and pretend you were someone important. Ethan barely had time to process before two men in tactical vests stormed up his driveway like they owned the place. The kind of walk that screamed power trip. One was tall and wiry, his shoulders squared like he'd been practicing authority in the mirror. The other was stockier, built like a guy who peaked in high school football and never got over it. Both of them were dressed in black cargo pants and matching vests with HOA enforcement emblazoned across the front in bold, self-important letters. Ethan had spent 25 years on the force. He'd worked with local cops, state troopers, and even some feds when the occasion called for it. And in all that time, he'd never, not once, seen anything remotely like this. The stocky one barked first. "You! Hands where we can see them!" For a second, Ethan thought maybe he was hallucinating. Maybe the exhaustion had finally pushed him into some fever dream of suburban lunacy. Then the wiry one jumped in, voice dripping with authority he absolutely hadn't earned. "You're in violation of HOA codes. Step away from the vehicle." Ethan just blinked. "Excuse me?" The stocky one puffed out his chest, clearly savoring the moment. "We've had complaints." Oh, this was gonna be good. "Unauthorized fencing," he continued, counting off on his fingers like he was reading from a ticket book. "Non-compliant driveway color, and multiple reports of hostile behavior toward HOA officials." Ethan stared, not in shock, more in pure, unfiltered disbelief. He let the words settle for a beat before stating as evenly as possible, "I don't live in an HOA." The wiry one barely hesitated. "Doesn't matter." His tone sharpened, as if Ethan had personally insulted him. "We enforce compliance everywhere in the community. You can either cooperate, or we'll be forced to take action." That's when Ethan noticed it, the cheap plastic handcuffs hanging from the stocky one's belt. A switch flipped. The exhaustion, gone. The sluggishness from a 20-hour shift, gone. All that remained was pure professional clarity. Because these guys weren't just some HOA busybodies waving a clipboard around. No, they were playing cop, and that kind of stupidity, that could get somebody killed. But the best part? They had absolutely no idea who they were messing with. Ethan didn't blink. He had faced down cartel enforcers, armed fugitives, and tweaked out meth heads with nothing to lose. But this was a new level of stupid. Two nobodies playing dress-up cops, standing in his driveway, acting like they had the authority to do anything other than hand out passive-aggressive letters about lawn height. So he kept his stance relaxed, not out of fear, but out of complete and utter control. Because that's what really scared guys like this, confidence. His voice stayed calm, even. "Do you have a badge?" The stocky one huffed, shifting his weight like a kid who just got called out in class without knowing the answer. But he covered it up quickly, shoulders rolling back as he sneered. "We're HOA enforcement officers, and we don't need your approval to enforce our laws." "Our laws." Ethan exhaled through his nose. Oh, this was going to be fun. The wiry one's mouth tugged into a smirk. a self-satisfied little thing that almost made Ethan want to laugh. "We got a call about a suspicious person on this property. You match the description." And just like that, the game revealed itself. Ethan felt it, the slow burn in his chest. Not fear, not nerves, rage. Because he knew this tactic. He had seen it too many times before. The kind of vague accusation that forced people into submission, makes someone doubt their own innocence, make them second-guess themselves, make them feel guilty just for standing there. It was a scare tactic, a power trip. And these two, they were drunk on it. They thought they had authority. They thought they were the law, and they had no idea who they were talking to. Ethan let the silence stretch, let the weight of his unimpressed air sink in. Then finally, he spoke. "I suggest you leave," he said, voice even, "before you get yourselves into serious trouble." The stocky one's face split into a grin, and then he laughed. A deep, mocking laugh, one full of certainty, of amusement, of pure, unfiltered stupidity. "We're not going anywhere." His tone oozed arrogance, like he had already won. "Matter of fact, you're under arrest for trespassing on HOA land." Ethan actually chuckled this time, shaking his head. "My property is HOA land now?" The wiry one's eyes darkened, and then he made the mistake. He reached for his handcuffs. Plastic. Cheap. The kind a kid might get in a Halloween cop costume set. And then came the words that sealed their fate. "Last warning. On the ground now." And just like that, they were done. Because Ethan moved. Fast. Too fast for them to react. His right hand snatched the wiry one's wrist mid-air, twisting it at an angle just sharp enough to make the guy buckle, but not enough to break it. In one fluid motion, Ethan yanked the handcuffs away, his movements so fast, so practiced, that the wiry one hadn't even processed what happened yet. The stocky one stumbled back, blinking like he just watched a magic trick he didn't understand. "What?" Ethan took a step forward, reaching into his back pocket. A moment later, his badge was in their faces. Chief of Police. Silence. Glorious, deafening silence. And then, the realization hit them like a truck. All the bravado, all the fake authority, all the confidence, gone. The wiry one's mouth opened and closed, his brain short-circuiting in real time. The stocky one? He looked like he was about 5 seconds away from throwing up. Ethan tilted his head. "Something wrong?" The stocky one swallowed hard. The wiry one tried. We didn't mean, we're just trying to keep the community safe." Ethan stared at them, and then finally he smirked. "Yeah," he said, flipping the plastic handcuffs in his grip. "How's that working out for you?" The stocky one gulped, his bravado crumbling like a cheap suit in the rain. Gone was the arrogance, the puffed-up chest, the condescending smirk. In its place, a man who just realized he'd royally screwed up. This is all a misunderstanding." His voice was higher now, wobbling at the edges. The wiry one nodded so fast, Ethan thought his neck might snap clean off. We're just trying to keep the neighborhood safe." Safe. Ethan let that word hang in the air, let them squirm under the weight of it. Then he folded his arms and tilted his head. By impersonating law enforcement? By trying to arrest people in their own driveways? Neither of them had an answer for that. The stocky one's voice wavered. "Look, we were just enforcing HOA policy." Ethan cut him off like a blade. "Where'd you get those vests?" Silence. They froze, like deer caught in headlights, and Ethan could almost hear the gears in their heads grinding, searching for an excuse that wouldn't sound as stupid as their entire operation. He didn't wait. He took a slow, deliberate step forward, closing the distance. "Because I know they don't issue those at homeowners association meetings." Still nothing. Ethan's voice sharpened. "Where'd you get those handcuffs?" Another step. "Where'd you get the lights on your car, the radios?" The wiry one cracked first. We got them online," he blurted. "It's not illegal. We just wanted to keep people in line." Ethan's blood boiled. Not illegal? They weren't just pretending to be cops. They were terrorizing their own neighbors. How many people had they bullied into compliance? How many times had an elderly homeowner been forced to pay some bogus fine just to get these two lunatics off their porch? How many times had they flipped on those fake police lights and made some poor family believe they were about to get arrested? Ethan had seen real criminals before, but these guys, they were something else. They were pathetic. He pulled out his phone and dialed. "This is Chief Carter," he said, his voice calm and sharp as a blade. "Send a unit to my address. I have 2 suspects impersonating officers, possibly involved in fraudulent activity." The stocky one paled so fast, Ethan thought he might faint. Wait. No, no, no. The wiry one threw up his hands, practically vibrating with panic. "Please, we were just trying to help." Ethan tilted his head, a slow smirk creeping onto his face. The same smirk they had worn when they tried to arrest him. Tell it to the judge. When the real cops arrived, it wasn't even a fight. No shouting, no resistance, no last-minute escape attempts. The second those flashing blue and red lights rolled down the street, the fake enforcers completely lost their nerve. Ethan didn't even need to say a word. He just stood there, arms crossed, watching the show. The stocky one was the first to crack. His whole demeanor changed in an instant. His puffed-up chest deflated, his shoulders slumped, and that smug arrogance he'd been throwing around all night, gone, evaporated. Now, he just looked like a guy who really, really regretted his life choices. "Oh, officer, hey, this is just a misunderstanding." His voice was different now, weaker, desperate. The wiry one, meanwhile, was having a full-blown meltdown. He was fidgeting, looking around like he was debating whether to run, but already knew it wouldn't end well. His breathing turned shallow. His hands flicked up like he wanted to plead his case, but couldn't get the words out fast enough. We can explain. We were just trying to help the community." Ethan finally let out a slow, deliberate sigh. Then, just to rub it in, he cocked his head slightly and asked, "Oh, and how's that working out for you?" Neither of them answered. Instead, they just stood there, frozen, as the real officers, professionals, trained law enforcement, actual cops, stepped onto the driveway. Ethan didn't need to give them much. "These 2 are impersonating law enforcement. They tried to arrest me in my own driveway." He handed over the cheap plastic cuffs he'd confiscated. "They also have a fake patrol car parked down the street with flashing lights." The officers didn't even hesitate. "Turn around." The wiry one yelped, actually yelped, like a scared puppy. The stocky one put his hands up instantly. Whoa, what? We were just enforcing community policies. We're part of the HOA." The officer cuffing him didn't even blink. "Yeah, tell it to the judge." Once the cuffs were on, the real officers searched their vehicle, and that's when things got so much worse for them. Fake IDs. Stacks of bogus violation notices demanding penalty fees from residents. Some of them even had official HOA court summons, which was so illegal that Ethan actually had to suppress a laugh. And then the cherry on top. Video evidence. Oh yeah, these 2 morons had been recording themselves while they ran their fake cop operation, shaking down homeowners, barking orders, demanding money, threatening to have people removed from the neighborhood if they didn't comply. And the worst part? Most of their victims were elderly. Ethan felt his jaw tighten as he flipped through one of the confiscated folders. Names, addresses, fine amounts. Some people had been forced to hand over hundreds of dollars just to avoid arrest. That's when Ethan felt something shift inside him. Before, this was just annoying. Some wannabe cops on a power trip, throwing their weight around, pretending to be something they weren't. But now he saw them for what they really were. Predators. They hadn't just been playing cop. They had been terrorizing people. And if Ethan hadn't caught them tonight, they would have kept going. They might have escalated. They might have hurt someone. Ethan took a slow, deep breath, schooling his expression back into neutral calm as the wiry one tried one last desperate plea. "We didn't do anything that bad." He was visibly shaking now. We were just trying to make people follow the rules." Ethan finally stepped forward, his boots crunching against the gravel as he came to stand directly in front of them. "You weren't enforcing anything." His voice was low, cold, dangerous. The stocky one gulped hard, his Adam's apple bobbing frantically. The wiry one tried again, voice cracking. We were just trying to make the neighborhood better." Ethan took another step forward, leaning in just enough so they could feel the weight of every word that came next. "You see, Real cops protect their communities. He let that sink in. Then in a voice that could have frozen fire, he finished. You preyed on yours. The wiry one whimpered. The stocky one shut his eyes as if wishing himself out of existence. Then, click. The squad car door slammed shut. The second the squad car rolled off, Ethan exhaled, not out of relief, but satisfaction. Because he knew exactly what was coming next. Within 24 hours, the entire town knew what had happened. The HOA, who, naturally, had been more than happy to let these guys run rampant when it benefited them, immediately threw them under the bus. We had no knowledge of their actions, they insisted. We do not condone impersonation of law enforcement. But the damage was already done. By the end of the week, several homeowners pressed charges, especially the elderly residents who had been bullied into paying made-up fines. Some had drained their savings, believing they were avoiding real legal trouble. By the end of the month, the case made national news. And Ethan? Well, Ethan finally got his hot shower. Finally let the tension bleed from his shoulders as steam filled the bathroom, washing away the exhaustion of a 20-hour shift, a fake arrest, and the sheer stupidity of the human race. And as the water poured over him, he thought to himself, this is why I do this job. Not for the paperwork, not for the headaches, but for nights like this, where he could shut down the worst kind of people, the wannabe cops, the predators in uniforms they didn't deserve, the ones who thought power was a game, right up until they met someone who actually knew how to play.